Auto equipment manufacturer Shure has launched its MoveMic system, marking the company's entry into the competitive creator-focused wireless lapel mic market. It's about the size of a Tic Tac container, give or take.
And for those young folks out there, look up Tic Tac boxes on the interweb. You'll figure out what that is.
They still sell Tic Tacs, Willie.
This man is eating a Tic Tac mint. It has a smooth outer coating. Then a surprise inside.
The incredible shrinking AV gear, VR and projection mapping projects, and dynamic network monitoring. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 655, recorded Friday, March 8th, 2024. Traffic shaping AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest audiovisual news and information we have gathered. First and foremost, the people that we have gathered to talk about this, Erica Carroll. How are you, madam?
Doing well. How are you, Tim?
I am fantastic. We are recording this on March 8th, so happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you.
Not only is she a kick-ass woman in the AV industry, but she's also one of the hosts of our fantastic Women in AV podcast. So thank you very much for joining us, ma'am. Also with us is Willie Franklin. We're going to call Willie Franklin our AV emeritus. You're retired now, but you still continue. That. Yeah. So how are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Honored to be here and delighted to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, a young man that we're having on for the first time, so you two be nice to him. Nick Mathis from ViewWall. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Tim. Thank you.
Absolutely. A couple things we have coming down the pipeline. We'll talk about where I'm going and where I'm headed. I get to hang out with some really cool folks at the end of this month. 2 weeks in Orlando. And there's a joke there somewhere that I'm not sure I should probably do, especially since my buddy Bradford Ben lives there. So, but we'll talk about that in a second. First up, network traffic shaping. Cobalt Iron has been granted a U.S. patent for its technology that dynamically adjusts network traffic for improved data protection operations. The patented technology utilizes analytics and user-defined policies to optimize network throughput levels in real time, adapting to various conditions and events. This approach aims to enhance operational efficiency and mitigate security risks in modern data centers. Security is becoming a theme here. Actually, we're doing a story next week on AV Week also about security, but we'll talk about that in a second. The platform can increase, decrease, or even turn off network throughput levels for various data protection operations, such as backup, restore, archive, and replication. Willie, we'll start with you on this. How important is stuff like network monitoring in today's AV over IP and today's networking infrastructure?
Hey, Tim, thank you for that question. Though retired and I cut my teeth in the AV world, not so much the IT world, when my unit began teaming up with our IT peers, network traffic was everything. Security was everything. So upon hearing about that software and reading the story, I know a lot of my former peers are just smiling with great delight if they've laid eyes on that story. It was not abnormal for us to host large conferences on the university's campus, but what was often the challenge is communicating our bandwidth needs, our traffic needs to the IT team in real time. And that really just kind of boils down to having a good peer-to-peer sharing, a level of collegiality that happens within the office and outside of the office. At the end of the day, to have that software be so dynamic, to have it live in real time, takes a lot of the worry off the IT team. It was not unusual that we had a couple of oops on campus when we were live streaming events while at the same time hosting a conference. And if the university president was a part of that presentation, that oops really became a pain point. I mean, it was a black eye for the university because you had not only folks locally participating in person, but you had an audience out there that could be an international audience. So yeah, having traffic monitored, adjusted, prioritized, managed without having to have boots on the ground because they're being pulled in multiple directions is invaluable. So kudos to Cobalt Iron on that one.
Erica, what Willie hit on there really quickly, I actually want to bring you on this. There is a growing, I'm going to call it a disparity, but it's not really a disparity. It's a cognitive dissonance that lives in my brain, and that also is a dangerous thing. But the more I talk to users on the higher ed side and on the corporate side, right? Corporate folks are like, you're not putting this AV over IP stuff on my network, right? You're going to deploy your own network. You're going to do your own thing. Higher ed, by and large, and I'm learning this, is like, no, put it on the network. We got it. We got this stuff, right? We've got this all day long. So as you're looking at those two differences, right, you've got this software coming in going, okay, we can help you either way, right? We can help you whichever way you go. So when you look at really putting the AV over IP on the network, and you know, stuff like this, does that help the IT manager maybe feel more warm and fuzzy when it comes to, okay, maybe I'll put it on my network now? Or is it two different systems, two different kind of cuts of cloth when it comes to an IT person in corporate versus an IT person in higher ed?
I don't know that they're totally different cuts of cloth. I think that there's still a lot more integration happening between AV and IT. I mean, we all know that AV is a lot more IT than IT is IT. Yes. But I think when you're talking to those IT administrators, their main concern is really going to be bandwidth, right? And they're concerned about that user experience and the network not crashing. And when we start introducing AV on top of their regular traffic, all we're doing is consuming more bandwidth. So more than anything, it could be, I've seen more and more a division of networks where there is an AV network and then there is an IT network. This sort of software, though, living on either or both of those systems, I think is certainly a peace of mind. It helps, you know, utilize bandwidth efficiency and ultimately increase that user experience.
Nick, one question here for you is what other sort of scenarios would dynamic adjustments be beneficial for?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few. One, kind of before we depart from, the higher ed or the corporate AV is, whether the AV over IP traffic is on that same network. It's more and more common to manage and maintain and update AV devices over kind of a control network, right? Which involves different ports that are used for video communications. So that can be a set of video traffic that's clamped down when firmware updates aren't being sent, and then opened up periodically when the maintenance group is rolling out those updates, so that the IT team has fewer different tunnels to keep an eye on when they're not in use. The other side, I think that this is useful is I live mostly in the command and control space now, where typically if you look at a control room, whether it's security, campus security, or whether it's the group that looks for wildfires in the state of California, they've got a wall where they may look at a few dashboards or a couple news feeds or cameras, and that doesn't take much bandwidth, right? But if there is an incident, or if someone is loose inside a building, or there's a fire or something like that, all of a sudden that group needs a lot more bandwidth than people do to watch YouTube during their lunch break. So being able to dynamically adjust to give emergency response or security operations 50% instead of 5% of the available up and downlink, I think is a very useful capability.
Next story talks about projection mapping. Stay with me for a second, kids. It is about a new home design experience, but I'll get there to the corporate side. Lifesize Plans. This is not Lifesize, the video conferencing, for those of us that are old enough to remember them. Different company. Lifesize Plans has developed a new home design experience by partnering with Panasonic and signal integrator Think to install one-chip DLP projectors in their showroom, enabling customers to walk through a one-to-one scale building plans of their future homes before construction begins. Lifesize Plans creates an immersive, quote-unquote, and seamless experience that allows people to explore their dream homes in vivid detail, thanks to the projector's brightness, color uniformity, and easy maintenance. The system can be seamlessly projected across the expansive 60,000 square foot showroom floor. That's the important part here. This collaboration between Lifesize Plans, Panasonic, and Think is set to revolutionize the way people design and visualize their future homes. Radrick, I want to start with you on this. What is the use case of projection mapping when it comes to planning corporate, planning higher ed spaces?
Yeah, so first, I actually want to say that I'm kind of amazed, having started my career at digital projection and doing projection mapping planning, all of the edge blending and color matching that they have to do to pull that off is freaking incredible.
Yeah.
As far as for commercial, I think it's a viable solution. I think it was coming up with VR and, being in that space. But if you can actually walk the space, I think it's a neat take on something that's actually been around for a while. Again, back when I started in my career, I know they were doing things like P&G had a showcase where they were specifying planograms and figuring out which brands go where on which shelf. And that was a one-to-one environment, but on a flat surface. So you could actually interact with the content and say, no, this doesn't work here. And it can change in real time so that, it can be deployed out to stores in real time. In that sort of commercial application, if they could make a cave out of this, that would be like super phenomenal. In higher education, I'm not really sure. I'd probably defer to Willie on that because they already have a lot of their existing spaces. They might have more constraints unless it's always a new build.
Nick, same kind of question here is when you look at, I'll just ask it this way: what is the expectation of clients, right? What should clients expect as far as I want to see it before I buy it? And Erica mentioned VR. There are a number of companies out there. One of them is called Modus, another one, and I don't remember their name right now, but they're based on the Unreal Engine, right? And if you're not familiar with what the Unreal Engine is, walk into your child's room while they're playing Fortnite, and that is Unreal Engine. And I'm simplifying that. It does way more than Fortnite.
Right.
But what is that expectation to see and not feel, but interact with your space before you sign the dotted line?
It's funny, I actually started my career with an AV integrator as an on-site support engineer in one of those 3D type of rooms that Erica was talking about. So I've seen that seeing is believing thing happen, and it can be retail, convincing, at a B2B level, planograms, hey, put these products here for client retention. At a university, maybe you're doing your master's thesis on a new design for a John Deere tractor, and you want to see whether the set of dials has sun shining on it when you turn away from the sun. In a 3D environment like that, you can simulate something like that. It's not a buy our house, but it's an application for that maybe in higher ed. And then in my kind of lane of security operations, emergency preparedness. You can run, evacuation drills on oil rigs that haven't been built yet. So there's a lot of uses for this that go beyond conversion to purchasing a product into, kind of leveraging that mapping or that immersive, technology for, increased value at any different type of user.
Willie, we'll bring you back around on this on the higher ed side. I was around higher ed long enough. We rehabbed, good Lord, it was a 120-year-old building. Right, and there was natural light, which when the sucker was built, and they made, I want to say, plumbing supplies, right, back in the early 1900s. The natural light was fantastic, right? The workers got natural light all day, and this, that, and the other. But when I went to put in 2 projectors, and the architect wouldn't let me put up any shades, not that I'm still salty about it 15 years later. I had to put up two 20,000 lumen projectors that cost an arm and a leg. So whether it's a retrofit or it's a new build, what's something like this mean to higher ed?
Oh, Tim, something tells me you know exactly where that architect parks their car.
It was the size of a Yugo.
Yeah, it can be ugly. Nick, Erica, you brought up 2 salient points with regards to kind of seeing it, experiencing it, thinking about emergency services beforehand, and certainly, Erica, in higher ed. I truly, truly wish 10 years ago this technology was available. My university bought an existing manufacturing building and flipped it into a maker space, complete with classrooms, academic offices, and things of that nature. A little bit over 61,000 square feet. And while it's an amazing space, there have been growing pains. There were design challenges. I had the opportunity to sit down with architects as well as upper administration folks without calling out their actual titles. And we just kind of bickered back and forth. And it was hard for a lot of individuals to really see what the footprint was going to look like beyond looking at the blueprint. Because many times there are people around tables who are just looking at their end use, right? And they're not seeing things spatially. They're not recognizing how confining that meeting room will be, how limiting the egress point will be. So imagine having two back-to-back 75-seat capacity classrooms where the entrance door comes in through a narrow hall, one door for that volume of students to come and go. Now, that door was wide enough that apparently it passed fire code, but during class exchange points, it's a bottleneck, and that's just one of many problem areas that was hard for people to visualize. So to have that projection mapping, the edge blending, to give you that real feel, to have the opportunity to test drive it before you start to put walls up, can and does make a huge difference. Again, I would have loved it if that technology were available some 10 years ago. I love the space as it exists now. It has gone through 4 redesigns. And for anyone who's built a home, built a shed, done any architectural work, moved in, and the wow factor goes from wow to wow. You know, when you're spending money to retrofit and redesign something, you're also asking yourself, why didn't we do this the first time out? So kudos on that technology, and I would love to get into projection mapping. So Erica, once your cruise is done, you and I need to talk, okay?
We were talking beforehand. Erica is getting ready to set sail, so good for her. I'm a little jealous. Final story. Shure has come up with mobile mics. Real quick disclaimer, Shure is a sponsor of AVNation. Auto equipment manufacturer Shure has launched its MoveMic system, marking the company's entry into the competitive creator-focused wireless lapel mic market. The MoveMic is available in single-channel and dual-channel models, offering direct-to-phone wireless transmission when used with Shure's Motive apps. That's an important part here. So you don't have to have a receiver. You can connect directly to their app. That runs you anywhere between $250 and $350 list price, U.S. list price. However, if you don't want to use their app, that is going to be an additional $200 for their separately available receiver. Now, you can put it all together with a bundle for $500 for the dual channel mics. It is a little bit on the pricier side, especially when you compare it to Rode or DJI, but Shure is banking on its industry reputation and the MoveMic's subtle design to attract creators and video journalists. I personally have a DJI system. It is fantastic. Nick, if you don't believe me, ask Anna that you work with, because she used mine at ISC.
She has one on her desk now. So
she has one on her desk. See, there you go. Right?
There you go.
It is the Shure is a smaller form factor, which the one downside to me on the DJI, it is a bigger microphone, right? It's about the size of a Tic Tac container, give or take, right? The Shure form factor is a little bit smaller, and not for nothing, I'm talking into a Shure microphone now. There's a reason for that. I do trust Shure a little bit more than I do the company DJI when it comes to the mic capsule, right? Nick, this is not about that part, but these systems and AV in general tends to keep getting smaller and smaller. They are just getting smaller. How do we maintain the quality of our AV as we are shrinking it down?
One of the war drums that I kind of beat on consistently is open standards in AV, right? So as things shrink, as you said earlier, this requires a separate app to be able to, capture it and use it, rather than just being something that your phone can pull in, over some open Bluetooth, codec onto your phone directly. The more conversions you take with signals as they come in, the more chances there are for signal to degrade or for some mismatch along the way that cuts audio out of a stream or something like that. it's becoming easier and easier with the advancements in how our technologies communicate over IP networks to make those matches and leverage standards that can do something really well, but other things not so well, or are kind of Swiss Army knives of everything, but don't excel at anything. So it's just about kind of leveraging in my mind the best available means of transporting from these cheaper and cheaper endpoints into a larger AV network to maintain the integrity of the source content.
All right. Willie, when you look at, as Nick said, the continuing adoption of IP protocols, the continuing adoption of open standards, I made no bones about this, and Erica kind of made mention of this earlier. AV is IT. It just is, kids, right? We can have a conversation later. You can email me, Tim at AVNation, and we'll discuss it.
Okay.
But you'll be wrong. So, this is, Nick's right. As we continue to leverage these more and more IT standards, how do we maintain that quality of, a microphone that all of us have used in some way, shape, or form if we've been on stage, right? There is a standard level of quality in the AV industry, in commercial AV. How do we maintain that as we move more and more onto the network and more into these mobile applications?
Good series of questions, Tim. I try to be brand agnostic on many things. However, I will officially say that when it comes to Shure products, I live by them. I have had just outstanding performance, and I love all of my Sennheiser folks, by the way. But Shure just seems to make magic happen. So I'm really intrigued by this new product, and I would love to give it a test drive, while at the same time, I am very familiar with the DJI product. Oh my goodness. And for those young folks out there, look up Tic Tac boxes on the interweb. You'll figure out what that is.
They still sell Tic Tacs, Willie.
Okay. But getting back to the question, maintaining standards, I can only hope that Shure's new product is going to deliver, that limiting is going to be right where it needs to be, that compression is going to be right where it needs to be, that coloring the audio will not be something to worry about, and portability is already established. That small footprint is another big win. Everyone wants to hide their lapels, understandably so. It's not the most attractive product, regardless of how wonderful it has been designed. I know when I'm doing weddings and I outfit a bride and groom with lapels, one of my first challenges, how do I hide this? I want you to look at photographs of your special day, not photographs of my technology. But that being said, I'm really intrigued as to what this product will feel like, what it will essentially taste like, and what it will sound like acoustically. As far as the pairing, I don't have an issue buying the receiver, even at that cost, and having that additional flexibility. Ideally, having a box to open with a little small Tic Tac that I can put on my lapel and utilize would be wonderful. But having that receiver gives me far more capabilities when I think about, I have a full-size electronic news gathering camera that I love. It's an HD camera, so it's nice to have that level of capacity to plug and play with that module. Enough said. I again bow to Shure.
All right, Erica, you'll have the last word on this. How do we maintain the quality as we keep getting smaller and smaller?
Well, I mean, obviously the standards we've absolutely already talked to, but I think part of the quality is also managing how the flexibility of the device and the scalability of the device, right? If this is just a small piece of the system and it comes into a receiver or something else that allows you to manage it better, I think that's how an easy way to maintain that quality. I will say this particular device, I did see the day that they were announcing it. Laura Clapp is an amazing musician and also works for Shure, and she was wearing it and posted about this on a Facebook reel or something at the time, and she was able to manage the audio levels and her gain and everything within the app. So even those little types of standards help the quality of the output from whatever that capture device is.
And I think that is one of those little those little details, right? That as much as I love my DJI, right, I am 100% going to buy one of these Shures because those little details that Shure has been doing audio for 100 plus years, and they get some, there are some certain things that they just get intuitively. So yeah, I'll be interested. All right, thank you guys so much, Erica Carroll. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
Oh, you can find me in all the places at the Erica Carroll, or you can find the Women in EV podcast at AVNation.tv.
Willie, how do people connect with you?
Oh my goodness, it's going to be LinkedIn. I'm dialing up my page to be a little bit more brilliant. So you can find me, Willie Franklin, at LinkedIn. And certainly you can reach me at franklindjservices@gmail.com.
All right, very good. Nick Mathis, thank you so much, sir. How do people connect with you or ViewWall?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, viewwall.com, you'll find me there too. On LinkedIn, I'm Nick Mathis. I'm on all the social medias. So ViewWall or Nick Mathis work great.
Very good. For me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters or the X or any other social media. I am not that interesting. But go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Eventually, you'll find a brand new episode of Women in AV. I just am not able to tell you exactly when that will be right now, and neither is Erica. Mitchell's in the background somewhere, and he's not even talking. But also, you'll find State of Control and also our education podcast, Higher Ed AV. Good Lord, EdTech. That's what it's called, EdTech. Yeah, it's been a long week, kids. So go by the website. Oh, also, I will be in Orlando for 2 weeks. I mentioned it at the top of this hour. I will be there the 19th through the 21st of March for Crestron Masters, as well as Modern Work Summit. And then the very next week, I will be there the 25th through the 27th for Enterprise Connect. If you're going to either of them, come by and say hey. We'll be hanging out with some great folks. I know our buddy Chris Netta will be there. Danto will be there. The folks from HETMA will be doing a presentation at Enterprise Connect. So yeah, good couple of weeks there. So, but go by the website first, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry. What are you listening to? This
is AV.
This is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.